kind of part of you? I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. What kind of part of you? I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. What kind of part of you? I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. I'm the kind of pirate that'll call a pirate out. What you claiming pirate for if y'all ain't gonna shout? What you rock our colors for?
It's the final weekend of September, week 4 of the college football season. It's hard to believe that we're this deep already into the season. But right now on the Pulse of Pirate Nation, very excited to be joined by former Pirate tight end and ESPN color analyst Jay Sonnhalter. Jay, how are you?
I'm great. Good to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. You were natural for coming on for this week, and the reason why is, after the Pirates' big win, 42-38, after that 38-21 deficit, just a heck of a comeback win to say the least, and one of the best comeback wins in East Carolina's history. And Kyle and I were talking, some parallels between this and the 2006 season. That 2006 season, the Pirates had road losses at Navy and UAB that were very competitive, then faced a 3-touchdown deficit against Memphis at home, and came back to win that game, went on to win 7 games in that season, So just talk about the parallels between this year and that year.
Yeah, it really is kind of similar to the start, and both 0-2. And I think the biggest thing was the game 3. Both teams had their backs against the wall, and last week for the Pirates, that was a huge win. And the way they did it was, a confidence booster for sure. But they really needed to get that game, and they got the job done. And I think here it's going to carry over, to ECU playing really well against a team they should blow out in Charleston Southern. 2006, we beat Memphis in game 3. Then we had to go and play West Virginia, and we played them pretty close. We lost 27-10. But I know getting that win against Memphis was, big just to get the winning started for that year. And, then we kind of went on and had a lot of success later on in the season. I think that's something, East Carolina's team in 2021 is hoping, that this win last week, hopefully a win today, will propel them into a good momentum build into the Tulane game and next week.
Yeah, no doubt. But before Tulane, we got to play Charleston Southern. Jay, you said you watched Charleston Southern play last weekend from the broadcast booth. You had their game for ESPN Plus. What did you see from Charleston Southern that the Pirates could take advantage of, and what might give the Pirates some problems?
Yeah, well, so Charleston Southern kind of got blown out against Monmouth, but Monmouth is ranked number 20 in FCS, and they're a really good team. So they face top-end competition against Monmouth just like they will against ECU. I mean, I think the thing the Pirates are going to be worried about when they watch the film is the up-tempo style that Charleston Southern plays with, and Jack Chambers, their quarterback. Against Citadel, he was 19 for 25, so he's an accurate thrower. They had problems picking up first downs last week, but this offense, if they pick up a first down, they're going to sprint to the line of scrimmage and kind of reminiscent of when Chip Kelly was at Oregon. They're going to try to play fast. So if the defense gives up some plays, it's really going to kind of turn into, an offense that's going to put you on your heels. So that's the biggest thing, you worry about if you're East Carolina. East Carolina physically should dominate this game. But if the Pirates, have turnovers and you give up some plays on defense, that's where it could pose some problems. So those are the areas, East Carolina should be worried about with Charleston Southern.
Yeah, and from my experience, unless you're taking on a top-notch FCS team like James Madison, or you're poorly coached like when we were playing A&T, your biggest shot of an FCS pulling the upset is just because you're not interested. Now,
yeah.
I think these guys should be interested. They should still be hungry, looking for win number 2. But just talk about, you mentioned beating Memphis in Game 3 after starting off 0-2. Pirates had a little bit of success in 0-5, but, not a winning season. Talk about, the getting pats on the back when you're not used to it. The Pirates got a lot of love this week. Bunch of young guys, they're not used to it. And how what you got to do to stay focused to get ready to play the next game when you're not used to that?
Honestly, no matter who you're playing, the biggest competition is feeling like you've arrived. And then the biggest boost can be, having your back against the wall and having something to play for. And, teams will maybe downplay that, but that's a real thing. And I agree with you. I think East Carolina should have a lot of motivation. They shouldn't come out here and overlook this game because, quite frankly, they need it, and we haven't proved enough to have arrived. But that is a real concern because when you're getting a lot of praise and feeling good about yourself, that's maybe when you kind of take your foot off the gas pedal. I don't think that'll happen, but that is a real thing. And when, in 06, when you're down 0-2 and you need a game, there's a different level of intensity. And even last week, it's 0-2, East Carolina going on the road to Marshall game. A lot of people didn't think we could win. There was a lot of intensity and focus to get that victory. So they need to use that second half focus and come out here, whether it's Charleston Southern this week, Tulane, whoever it is, but play with that same focus no matter who the competition is.
Jay, one of the things we saw last week in that comeback win at Marshall was the emergence of the tight end position. Coach Houston, Donnie Kirkpatrick, and the staff have made no bones about it, how much they want to involve the tight end. And that room has really grown leaps and bounds. When they took over, they really had one tight end, and now they have about 6 or 7. Obviously, Shane Calhoun's the guy that has really emerged, had 8 catches for 114 yards and a touchdown last week at Marshall, the top performance by a Pirate tight end since way back in 1992 when Carlester Crumpler Jr. went over 100 yards. So just talk about what you've seen out of the ECU tight ends.
Well, I think that was a coming out party, and you could really see the focus of the offense trying to get them involved. And I love the tight end position. I think overall in college football, it's an underutilized position. Especially when you've got a guy like Shane Calhoun. And I saw him, Coach Houston and I did a recruiting show a couple of years ago where we were watching film and talking about all the incoming recruits. And I saw Calhoun, and he is a weapon in the passing game. He was in high school, he was split out at wide receiver in the slot. He played tight end, played H-back, and he can do damage with his route running, his speed, and he's a matchup problem for defenses. He's too fast for linebackers. He's too big for safeties and corners. And he's a guy that I think needs to continue to be a focus point for this offense, especially that over the middle threat. So I loved it. And I think the depth at that position is a huge plus for ECU, whether it's through the air or if they need to get in running sets with, all the numbers they have. They can load things up and play 3 tight ends, even 4 at one time in goal line situations or short yardage situations. So I think that's a strength this year for sure.
Jay, what did you see in that second half during that comeback, or during the whole game? We played better on offense. Besides the emergence of Shane Calhoun, what did you see us do differently on offense, or was it just Marshall's defense presented some things that allowed us to do more on offense?
Yeah, well, I think it's both. I mean, I think Marshall kind of. I don't know really what happened there. They got a little slack, a little prevent there, and we took advantage of it. I think the biggest thing is, though, we kind of controlled the line of scrimmage. The running game was improved, and with Ehlers, he was accurate with the ball in the second half. So I think a lot of things that we did, we just improved on. And I know Don Kirkpatrick said this week that we just played better. And sometimes it's as simple as that. Guys just have to focus. Guys have to know that, hey, we've got to do the job or else we're going to lose again. Because that was a real threat being 0-3. I mean, that would have been miserable to come back home 0-3. So I think they just, they got a little brace with Marshall kind of having the lead and not being as locked in as they should have been, and then we picked it up.
Yeah, something else, I noticed during the Appalachian State game against Marshall Thursday night, Marshall goes very fast, and their defense tends to get worn out in the fourth. They got an experienced front seven. I don't think they're rotating in and out enough on that front seven. You got some good starters there, but when you're having to play that many snaps, you got to rotate. Yeah. Some fresh legs, even if it's your third string guys, would be more effective than tired, worn out bodies in the fourth.
I agree with you completely. And if you're going to play that up-tempo style, that's the problem, is you're going to get your defense tired. And, whether it's they don't have depth, which may be, the issue, but if you don't have depth and you only want to play your starters or rotate very, infrequently, you can't play that style on offense because you're not helping your defense out. And I think you've got to rotate no matter what. Even if you don't have guys that you have faith in as backups, you got to put them in at least for a play, steal a play here or there, because you can't expect your defensive line to be playing 100% if they're tired.
Yeah, and I think they do have depth. I think the drop off is significant because their front seven is so experienced. But I do think they have some quality athletes behind them, and you can't. You gotta have enough sense to know that as a coaching staff, your defense and your offense has to work in tandem. And despite the drop off, you got to have fresh legs.
Yeah, I mean, like if you watch film on teams, most of the times they give up plays. It's either because of execution mistakes or because they're not playing hard. And you have to keep everybody fresh. And no matter what the drop off is, I mean, I just think you have to rotate guys in, and I think that was an issue for them in that game.
Jay, so are you calling the game tonight on ESPN Plus for the Pirates and the Buccaneers?
I wish I was. I am not. I'm not going to be on the call though. I will be watching. And
okay, so Jay will not be on the call. Okay, so write your letters to ESPN Plus and complaint that they didn't get Sonny on the call tonight in Greenville.
But hey, I'll tell you what, it'll be fun to watch just because I saw Charleston Southern last week, so I kind of know their personnel, and I think there's certain ways that we can attack this defense. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how the personnel matchups line up and what we do in this game, because I do think this. We won. East Carolina won last week and feeling good about themselves. Charleston Southern played really good against Citadel in game one, played bad against Monmouth. A lot of mistakes, penalties, and turnovers. I have a feeling they're going to play much better and clean that up. So it'll be an interesting matchup for sure tonight.
And not Monmouth, Charleston Southern also has a kid on their team that played at J.H. Rose, kid on their team that played at West Craven. So, so you got some kids coming home tonight that I'm sure are going to be fired up.
Yeah, for sure. They've got a wide receiver named Garrett Schwarting that had 6 catches, like 151 yards and 4 touchdowns week one. Monmouth was like double and triple teaming him. So that's a guy on the outside to look for ECU trying to cover and trying to slow him down because he's a big play weapon.
Now, Jay, as we begin to wrap this up, like I mentioned in the lead-in, as far as the final week of the month of September, hard to believe that we'll be a third of the way through the regular season. What are some of the things that have stood out for you? Last week you had Alabama being pushed to the brink at the Swamp, winning 31-29 after stopping Florida on that 2-point conversion. And then you had week one, Georgia taking down Clemson. Clemson pushed to the brink by Georgia Tech in Death Valley, which was very surprising. And their offense has really struggled on whether it's those things or, some of the other good stories around the country, like Michigan being very dominant thus far. What are some things that have stood out?
Yeah, it's interesting. You said a lot of them. I mean, it's like Georgia and Alabama to me are heads and above, kind of better than everybody else. And teams like Oklahoma, I haven't been impressed by them. Ohio State, they've looked shaky. Clemson, shaky. So 3 of those teams that are usually right there haven't gotten off to the starts they want. And which one of those teams are going to improve a lot here throughout the season? I think Alabama though looks pretty rock solid going on the road against Florida. With Bryce Young still early on here, only 3 starts, they look so good. I think Georgia's going to be there at the end. I just think there's going to be a lot of parity and a lot of upsets as we go through this season, which will be a lot of fun. And bringing up Michigan, they haven't faced the toughest competition, but I do think they're going to be able to challenge Ohio State this year, as well as Penn State. The other thing, Bubba, is the USC coaching search. I can't wait to see what they do there.
Yeah, you got to wonder. USC has made so many changes over the year. It seems like can't ever get the right guy in there. I don't know what direction they're going to go. I wonder if Chris Peterson has. I heard that when he retired at Washington, that he just said he needed some time off. That he'd come back at some point. I wonder if this is enough time off.
Yeah, you wonder if it could be an Urban Meyer type situation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they should go after every top coach because I mean that's a sleeping giant job. I mean, if you get the right person in there, they can dominate recruiting and really probably dominate the Pac-12 because there's just I mean when you look at that job compared to SEC job, look at the road that you've got to go through. And the Pac-12, right now it's really Oregon. That's about it. And the SEC, if you take one of those jobs, like for instance, if LSU ever opens up, if they don't have a good year and they make a change down there, which could be possible if they have another subpar year, which job is better? I mean, USC is going to have an easier path to get to the playoff.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Some excellent thoughts here on the Pulse of Pirate Nation this morning as we're just hours away from kickoff between the Pirates and the Charleston Southern Buccaneers. Jay, we appreciate your time as always, and we'll look forward to having you back on the show really soon.
Yes, sir. So good to catch up, guys. Thanks for having me.
What kind of pirate are you? I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. What kind of pirate are you? I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. What kind of pirate are you? I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. What kind of pirate are you? I wanna know. I wanna know. I wanna know. I'm the kind of pirate that'll call a pirate out. What you claiming pirate for if y'all ain't gonna shout?